Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays. I think this is week like 31 or something like that now. I don't even count anymore. I just know that every Monday I get to answer a bunch of questions from you guys. However, like some episodes, I do have a quick announcement to make here at the beginning, and it's less of an announcement and more of a thank you. I just recently received this plaque from Extra Life for the work that we did for 2014. For those of you who didn't know, in 2014 I raised over $5,000, don't remember the exact amount, for the Children's Specialized Hospitals of New Jersey. And I say I raised it, but really I want to thank all of you, because this plaque is really just as much yours as it is mine. Everyone who came by the stream, everybody who donated to reach that $5,000 goal in less than 16 hours. It was phenomenal. I really want to thank you. If you're wondering who that is on the plaque, that is actually Victoria Enman. They sent me a little sheet with a background information, and she was just a big inspiration for, you know, Extra Life. It's kind of like a background story for them. I don't want to read the whole story. It's quite a sad story. Just know that she passed away, and what we do with the Extra Life Foundation, or the Extra Life organization, is we help prevent cases like the ones that is explained out on this entire page. It's actually a very touching story. I'm really happy that they sent it to me. They even sent me a handwritten thank you card. Just thank you, Extra Life. Thank you for doing what you do. And don't worry, I've already signed up for Extra Life 2015. We're going to be raising $10,000 this year. I can feel it. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's go and answer some questions like we do every week. Alright, so the first question is actually a really good one. It's something I'm speculating about myself. Hey, Mrhappy, question for next week. I was wondering about the gear bought from vendors in Heaven's Word. Do you think it'll be on par with the pre-endgame for 2.0, or will it be on par or even better than the endgame gear you can get from tomes and raids? So we know that level 51 gear will not be higher than item level 130. This has already been confirmed. The question is, though, is what will the sort of vendor-like gear be? You know, it's not going to have any fancy stats or anything, but it is something to be curious about. And, you know, I'm thinking that it'll be stronger than the majority of level 50 gear, or at least it'll be strong enough to get you into level 51 content. Odds are it's going to stick around item level 50 to 55 if it's vendor bought, but stuff from dungeons and quests and you know, leaves, maybe even fates, who knows, maybe they'll start including gear from there. I suspect that will very quickly outscale some of the lower level 50 gear, you know, probably around item level 90, 100. The thing is, you have to remember is that because you need to go through the main story from 2.0 to 2.55 in order to get to Ishgard, the question is, do you have to go through Ishgard to get to the rest of Heaven's Word? Because if so, then I could expect level 51 gear to be around item level 100, because that's around the item level that you usually need to finish the main story, you know, to finish the Chrysalis and the fight that we're probably going to be having in patch 2.55. Whatever the minimum item level is, I expect it to be one step above that. So I don't expect it to be immediately better, but pretty darn close. Maybe by 54, 55, it'll be around that item level 130, maybe even higher mark. Next question. Question for Mrhappy Mondays. I'm a PS4 player who is interested in the Heaven's Word Collector's Edition, but not the box set. I also want to play during Early Access. If you were me, how would you go about reserving the game? Online or at GameStop/Best Buy? PS, keep up the fantastic work. Thank you, and thank you for your question. There is a digital deluxe version that's $60 you'll be able to get. It just comes with, you know, like the Fantasia, the Cecil helm, the Cane Highwind, minion, and the Griffin mount, as well as, of course, the game itself. You should just be able to pre-order that through any means, really. I know there's a Steam pre-order that's going to be available if you are on PC. PlayStation 4 will probably be on the PlayStation Network at some point. Try March 16th, because March 16th is when pre-orders are supposed to go live on Square Enix's store for the physical version. I'd imagine the digital version will probably be available. Maybe they'll even have it. But since it's for the PlayStation 4, you are probably going to need to pre-order it off the PlayStation Network store. I'll have more information about that later, or at least after tomorrow when the Collector's Edition is actually available. Next question. Hi, Mrhappy1227. Love your vids. Thank you. Question for week 31. We haven't heard much about the housing in 3.0, and I was really hoping we'd be getting at least a new housing zone. What do you think? We won't be getting a new housing zone. It's already been confirmed that Ishgard's kind of in a state of war. They're not really in a place where they can offer that kind of, you know, utility to the world. But maybe after the Dragon Song War, if we end it, that is, maybe, you know, once they've rebuilt a little bit, then they're going to get a housing zone. But other than that, maybe we'll get another, like, sub-district, but not like a whole new housing zone. And a lot of people in the forum have been complaining about why there isn't a sharing feature for married couple. I don't know how they didn't think to like try to get that in immediately, because somebody asked about that at a live letter or something, and they were so surprised at the idea, like, we should have probably done that. It's not going to be available at launch, but we're working on it. Yeah, it's stupid. I was very upset about it too, because I am married in game, and that was something we were planning on, was having the shared house. So soon, please. Hi, TM. Yeah, I want it. Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy. Love your videos. Thank you. Question for Monday. With the announcement of spell speed and skill speed being buffed in the expansion, do you think it's a good idea to add those stats to the Zodiac weapon? It doesn't matter, because that Zodiac weapon is going to be pointless come 3.0. It'll probably help you at the start of Heaven's Word, level 51, 52, as we were just talking about before. It's not going to be useful to you at level 60, and you won't even be able to continue the Zodiac quest line until 3.1. So it doesn't matter, bottom line. And besides, it's not getting buffed until 3.0, and we don't even know the exact specifics of the buff. We don't know if it's going to make dots last less time so that they tick faster. We don't know if it means that it's going to work into the damage calculation somehow, like they'll scale with int and determination and spell speed. That's just the thing. We don't know enough about that. And honestly, if spell speed ends up being that good of a stat, crit is going to be a huge stat for summoners in the expansion. Remember, summoners do have that passive that makes it so that pets, when they crit, it gives their master a spell speed buff for what, like 10 seconds? That's what, 20% spell speed? If that ends up panning out, if spell speed ends up being a good stat for summoners in the expansion, crit's going to be an even better stat for them because of that 20% scaling, making sure that your pet gets that additional crit. It's going to be interesting seeing the balance you want to have between crit and spell speed, but even then, it may just end up at a point where all three are very equally scaled. It's too early to know. We need to know what the dot changes are. Don't worry about your Zodiac weapon right now. Alright, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. Back to my Saturday morning watching. You watch this on Saturdays? Well, if you're busy throughout the week, it's actually a pretty good time to watch it. Explains why I get a lot of questions on Saturdays, because I think there's quite a few people that wait till the end of the week to really enjoy the video. Good to know. I have a curious question about classes and jobs. Is there any point in switching back to a class after level 30? Let me read the whole thing first. I've explained to my friends I've gotten to play the importance of being a job to define your role in the party, and explained that classes can be utilized quite well for solo play due to the additional cross-class skills. However, I've never actually seen anybody switch back to their class, despite the 10 cross-class skills, and as you've shown in your Let's Plays, your stats also receive quite a boost when set as a job. I love the secondary class aspect to get people into their roles, but it almost feels like classes are redundant after level 30, and it feels that way because, really, they are. Classes are there to slowly teach the player how to play a general role, how to get used to their role, where then as soon as they hit the jobs, now they really have to learn how to fill their role. It's less about being that I can do anything and into I'm going to be this one thing. So some people still play classes. It's mostly in PvP where it happens. Marauders and archers are very popular. The main use in PvP either being because your job offers you no sort of real gain. Marauder being more popular in the Wolf's Den, whereas Warrior is very popular in actual front lines because Warrior is just an unkillable machine when they have their cooldowns up. Some jobs prefer to go the class for things like Mercy Stroke to quickly kill off low health allies instead of just relying on that one execute skill. The Swift Cast Stone Skin to help protect yourself. There are reasons, but it's reasons that the individual has to already have in their mind are a good idea. You can't just say, oh, I'll do it, and then never once Swiftcast Stone Skin as an archer in PvP. That's pretty much the extent of their use. You won't really see it unless you're trying to just, like, do a turn 5 for fun. Turn 5, all classes, no jobs. Turn 5, 4-man, only classes. Things like that. You just won't see it. Next question. Question for week 31. I thought I remember Square Enix talking about implementing free company alliances. I understood this to be a free company able to ally with each other like a friend free company, with a common chat channel, etc. The only thing I can find is information about queuing for content as an alliance with your free company. Did I misinterpret what free company alliances are? I briefly remember something along the lines of what you're saying. I never remember it saying they were going to get a common chat channel. But if there's a good chance you're just mistaking it for when they made it so that you could queue in as 24 people to things like, PvP or Circus Tower or Labyrinth of the Ancients, when they made that an available option. there's other systems they've spoken about that you could be referring to. Like, there's going to be a system where people who aren't a member of your free company can join you on your free company airship adventures. You know, I feel like I remember this as well. Maybe it was just wishful thinking one day. I'm just going to say it was you probably misinterpreted it. If somebody has a source, please, by all means, comment below the video and let me know what it is, because I just don't remember it all the way. Next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, love the vids. Question for Mondays with Mr. Happy 31. I don't know why I don't just read like one comment before I start the video so I know which episode it's going to be, or look at the title of the video I'm actually pulling from. When do you think people will get over 11 and stop comparing the two? I love this question. Whenever I bring up new classes and hopes for the future expansion in my free company, everyone always talks about how they want this or that from Final Fantasy 11. I don't think someone can fully enjoy a game if they keep comparing it to another. And I like your mentality because it's true. I mean, for a lot of us, myself included, Final Fantasy XI was a game that was either the first MMO we played or just the MMO we played the most or for the longest time. And there's a lot of nostalgic connections to the memories, whether they be good or bad, that just make you want to hang on to it. And especially because it is another Final Fantasy title, it's completely normal. I don't think people will ever stop comparing the two, myself included. I mean, I make those comparisons all the time. But what I go out of my way to do is talk about the pros and the cons of those things that it's like, oh, you know, 11 did this. How would it actually be in 14? A good example is Salvage. For those who don't know, it was a piece of content in Final Fantasy XI where you entered an area and your characters were stripped of all their gear and all of their abilities, their sub-jobs, everything. You basically went in as what was the equivalent of a max level naked level 75 job. And your goal was to farm up enemies and unlock those abilities by using cells, farm mini-bosses and mid-tier bosses for loot that was level 15 or 25 that could eventually be combined into powerful level 75 armor. And there was a big boss at the end that guaranteed drops that were the level 25 equivalent, 15, 25, and 35 being the three pieces you needed to combine. It all sounds like a really great adventure. But what I remember is literally doing it for 5 years and never seeing a level 35 drop. I remember doing it as often as I possibly could, and at sometimes going in as a black mage and never getting a cell to unlock magic, therefore just making me dead weight. Things like that probably wouldn't roll over very well in 14. And it's also it's a system that really favors horizontal progression. For something that's vertical progression, you'd have a lot of frustrated players. It's something that really only fits within the niche of Final Fantasy XI's combat and world. But that doesn't mean I don't want it. I still think it could be implemented in 14, but I would never want to see it in the same implementation as Final Fantasy XI. As you can see, I'm comparing it while you're asking me the question. My point is, I don't think it'll ever stop, but I do one day hope that they stop wanting it to be like, you know, exact copies of everything that game was. This isn't Final Fantasy XI. It never will be Final Fantasy XI 2. Accept it, or just live forever in your nostalgia. Honestly, if you're too nostalgic over Final Fantasy XI, I highly recommend you go back, you play for like a month, get all those nostalgic feelings out of the way, and then play the game as it is now, and see how you feel. If you like it, well, then you don't need to keep complaining about 14. You could just play 11. That's how I eventually realized I can't play this game. All my nostalgic memories about Final Fantasy XI were more about the people I played with, and almost every one of them was talking about, God, I hated Garlade Citadel. Oh, do you remember leveling here? That sucked. Or, oh man, I remember one time dying. They're all situations of me having a shitty time and looking back and laughing at them, which is a good thing, I guess. But I'd rather not have that situation happen in Final Fantasy XIV, or at least not as much Zodiac weapons. Alright, so I'm pretty far into the video, and I've only answered like 5 questions, so let's go through these. Hey, so I kind of watch Mondays with Mr. Happy, surprised I knew what that was for a while, and I feel prepared to ask this question. I don't understand 40% of the things that you and other people say, ask, or answer. There are a lot of things that I just don't understand because I don't play XIV because of money issues, but I love your videos, but it's hard to understand. So could you mention some acronyms for XIV? You could also keep up the, you're awesome, keep up the good work. P.S. I hope by the time you're reading this, you're not sick. If you are, hope you get better soon. I haven't been sick in weeks. I think I'm finally, like, finding a way to take care of myself, like, in a way that I don't wake up. First of all, I just don't record videos right when I wake up because I'm always like, ugh. Anyway, so, I guess mention some acronyms. I guess I'm having a hard time thinking of an acronym for Final Fantasy XIV. it is hard to understand if you don't keep up with the game, talking about new bosses, talking about specific mechanics, referring back to things in the story. That I can understand. I'll work on it a little bit more, being a little bit clearer. But hopefully what you're absorbing from this is more that, you know, keeping up to date with the game through these videos, if not my other ones, and my personal opinions on them and ways that I feel like they can be improved. That's a big thing I like to talk about, is ways I feel like things could be improved or ways that I feel like things that would make things worse. So I'll do my best to try and make it a little bit more clearer, but I'm still mostly just going to answer questions off the top of my head. Alright, next question. Hello, hashtag Mr. Smiley. Anyway, first off, I'd like to say that I'm an avid watcher of your content and love what you do. I have two questions for you, and I apologize if it's a tad long. I mean, Bard, and I was just wondering if you think that Machinist and Bard will share gear in Heavensward. Short answer is yeah. They said it's a ranged DPS like Bard, therefore I'm already lugging in that it's dexterity. You never know what could happen, just immediately my interpretation of it. And if so, how do you think Machinist will do DPS-wise? I love Bard, but its numbers make me want to cry. Lastly, do you think they'll add new jobs for, new job weapons for things like Coil, maybe to help it not be forgotten? I guess it was 3 questions, sorry. So the thing is, if they add weapons for the old jobs in Coil, at that point, every single time they launch a new job, it needs to have weapons for everything. Now, obviously, they need weapons at least for the dungeons that will be relevant. Like, if these jobs end up just going from 30 to 60, and we know it's not 1 to 60, like if it's 15 to 60 or 30 to 60, there obviously needs to be weapons available in related content, like, you know, Brave Flocks, Sunken Temple. But going all the way out of the way to design Coil weapons when the content is, for the most part, irrelevant by the time you get through Heavensward, or to Heavensward, actually, I think that they're putting themselves in a trap where they're expected to do that every single time. So I don't think it'll happen. Also, Bard numbers aren't as bad as you make them out to be. A lot of it is just, I've seen a lot of mistakes that Bards make, mistakes that I used to make back in like 2.0, 2.1 when I first started the job. The macro usage, I totally do not recommend that anymore. One big thing is I see a lot of Bards look away from the boss whenever they're moving, and that makes you lose auto attacks. I've told so many Bards about that, and so many of them have seen DPS increases. But I know Bards that pull very, very good numbers, even while having to sing like Paeon and Ballad. In fights where they don't have to sing Paeon or Ballad, which is mostly the older content, to be fair, they demolish everything. I mean, they have that over 1,000 DPS burst at the start if you're very well geared, and without having to sing any songs, that, you know, it drops, but it doesn't drop to a point where you're like, oh my god, I have a Bard. The only reason why people do that is when they get double Bard in a dungeon and they just know, hey, now we have no DPS limit break. Great. But Bard's damage isn't as bad as you make it out to be. I think Machinist will be on par, sort of. I think Machinist will be above it, you know, a bit, maybe quite a bit, but Machinist also does have some strong utility based on the way they're describing it, so it's not like they can be that super powerful. Machinist also plays completely differently. Bard has this complete free range of motion. Machinist, you kind of have to find spots in the fight where you can literally just stand still and unload damage, because you'll do more damage when you're not moving around as a Machinist. I think it's an interesting way of balancing the job, and I'm looking forward to how it pans out. So I don't think so. To answer all 3 of your questions, Dex, comparable, but maybe a little bit better, but not like ridiculously better. And no, I don't think they'll add weapons to Coil. Next question. Good Monday to you, Happy. Question for week 31, hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. How would you feel about Alexandrite being added to dungeons as well while working through Nova Steps and beyond? I guess it couldn't hurt. At this point, the Nova Step is so old, I don't really care how they buff it or if they don't buff it at all. I understand for newer players that are trying to get the weapon done, to encourage players really to work on the weapons while they're waiting for the expansion, it would definitely be a big help. Although a bigger problem is not just the Alexandrite, but it's the amount of gil you usually need to spend on materia. I find a lot more players being stopped by that than the actual farming of the Alexandrite anymore, especially after the buff to the drop rate from Fates. So I think it's a fine idea. I think they could just, at the end of a dungeon, you have a chance of getting an Alexandrite. I mean, they already do it with other stuff. If it's got that sort of like drop rate based thing, it could just be higher than Fates. I think it could work out. So I'm going to go ahead and say, sure, why not? 2.55 is bringing Final Coil to the Duty Finder, so what the hell? We'll just buff all the Zodiac quest lines while you're at it. You're already taking steps to put like Final Coil and Echo and remove the limit on World of Darkness. Might as well just go the full 9 yards before the expansion comes out. Make sure that every person who hasn't done something for any reason at all is like, now I might do it. And on that note, next question. Hey, Mr. Happy, I have a question, and this may sound really jerkish, but what would be your advice on telling someone that you don't think they are suited to the class they are playing due to not paying attention? AKA a healer that is focusing on texting people on her phone. That gets oddly specific, not his or her phone, just her phone, and not healing leading to wipes. I don't want to be mean to her, but I also do not think she is suited to the job. Any advice? Well, first of all, I don't know anything about this person. It could be work-related, therefore it's not something she can ignore. Based on the way you're telling it, though, I don't think that's the case. You can't have people doing that. When you're doing a fight, that needs to be someone's sole focus. Yes, emergencies happen. You know, you ordered food and it came at a bad time, so you got to go make sure you don't leave the delivery guy waiting. You know, maybe something happened with a family member or a friend that's in desperate need of your help, and you can't wait till the end of the wipe. He really needs you. Those things happen. But literally just being like, all right, heal. Oh, shit, a text. All right, hold on. All right. Oh, sorry, guys, I was texting. That's not good. You just literally need to tell them outright that can't happen. All right, next question. Sup, Haps? Yo. I don't know why that was my first response. So I feel like you may have answered this before, but have you played any Zelda games? If so, did you like them? When I was young, I played the ones on the NES. You know, I played the original. I played, Legend of Zelda 2 and 3. I played, Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, but I kind of stopped there. Like, I had a friend, I went over his house, and technically I played Wind Waker there, but I didn't play any of the new ones like Skyward Sword or any of the remakes. It's been a long time since I played a Legend of Zelda game. Not because I didn't like them. Wind Waker kind of turned me off. I wasn't a fan of the graphics back when I was that young. And then just after that, I stopped buying Nintendo consoles, really. I was more interested in, PC gaming and, really playing Final Fantasy XI so much to the point where everything else just kind of fell to the wayside. I loved every Zelda game I've ever played, really. Even Legend of Zelda 2, which, a lot of, there's that whole debate. Is it good? Is it bad? I liked it. One big thing I like about Zelda games, I'd like to see in more games nowadays, is the puzzle-solving aspect. I love a good brain puzzle. I love Sudoku specifically. I don't know why I love them so much. I'm just infatuated with numbers. So, yeah, that's the one thing I really liked about the Zelda games. I don't really have one that I hate. So, I guess I really haven't played enough to hate any of them. So, yeah, I like them. Oh, and there's actually a video of me, I think it's still on my YouTube channel from ages ago, before I had, like, as many subscribers as I have now, where I played the original Legend of Zelda, or I attempted to play it, with a DDR pad. So, if you want to see me look real stupid, here, I'll just put, if it's still on my YouTube channel, I'll put the annotation right here, because it's embarrassing. Alright, so I've seen this question pop up actually quite a few times. Hey Happy, can you give us a link to the top 14 worst Final Fantasy XIV players, referring to the Limit Break Radio podcast that I mentioned a while back. And I told Aniro to send me a Twitch message when he had it up on YouTube, and he never did, Aniro being one of the hosts of Limit Break Radio. So, I'll find it and put it in the link below. It's like a 7-hour-long Twitch clip. That's the only way I know how to find it. I'll check their YouTube as well. Hopefully I can find it, though, because it was hilarious, and I pretty much agreed with all 14 of their candidates. For those of you wondering, it's not actual 14 players, it's more like 14 different types of Final Fantasy XIV players, like Happy Haters, which was a pretty funny one that I didn't find out about until after the show was over. It was pretty good. I'll be sure to include a link to that in the description of the video. And anyway, moving on, next question. Hi Mr. Happy, question for Monday with Mr. Happy number 31. What are your thoughts on the, wait for it, number of skills versus number of spaces on our action bar? I mean, on the PlayStation 4, I mean, for third bar of new skills for some class, and on PC, I don't even know how I was supposed to handle it all with all the new upcoming skills. Your opinion? So this is, I've come to understand now why World of Warcraft sometimes removes abilities going into an expansion, because I do see, like, just, I imagine getting new abilities and trying to think of where they're even going to go on my bar. You know, I have all the tools to figure out where things need to go. We also have to see if anything's buffed or nerfed, but, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, to say the least. I'm just looking at my keyboard now, already starting to think about different binds I'm going to do. I think that, honestly, I'd rather be a controller player when it comes to post-expansion. I feel like the system for the controller is easier for less dexterous people, or, yeah, less dexterous people. in order to reach multiple skills, because everything is literally right here. It's not like me on my keyboard where I have to worry about, how, where can my thumb reach where my pinky is and everything like that. But, I mean, I've been playing on a PC for so long, I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll get cluttered. I think at some point they may remove skills from jobs, but with how integral every ability is, that's so hard to think of. Just get rid of Feint. How about that? I'd never see anyone use Feint. Come on. Except in PvP. And when you first get it at, like, level 8. We'll see what happens. Next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Question for week 31. What do you think about Square Enix adding level sync in Final Fantasy XIV? I feel like they are following the trend of Guild Wars 2 where every zone is level synced. I absolutely hated this and left that game for this game. It's like forcing you to play the way they wanted you to play and slowing you down. Well, I understand the reason they are doing this because they don't want the content to be too easy and have no challenge. But take WoW, for example, where our high-level characters can go back to old content and solo it. If my party are capable of clearing old content faster and easier, we should be able to do that to defeat our goal and purpose in the first place, where the game is heavily based on linear gears progression. Every level sync content makes me feel like my character is not progressing and I'm the same as everyone else. Earning that special loot doesn't seem that exciting anymore. I seem to only be doing content that are not level sync now and never want to touch the level sync content. So the item level sync, I think, is fine. The only thing, they're not level syncing zones. Level syncing zones I hated about Guild Wars 2. It's really, really annoying to be in a zone, know you're level 80, and the zone is just like, hold on. We need to hold you back a little bit. But for low-level dungeons, it's more or less just to preserve it in the duty finder. But they have spoken about opening up opening up old areas without level caps for solo play more specifically, and also opening up lower-level areas with NPCs from your grand company that you can use to level. This is really just to kind of help people through the duty finder if they may have super long queue times or not a lot of time to play in a day. So they are kind of, they want to maintain it for low-level groups, whereas, if you go in solo eventually, you may be able to just do it. I think a big reason why they didn't allow this before was they were worried about, server issues. They always are worried about server issues. So in the future, I actually expect you will be able to go back and solo old content without much issue. The question is, when? Next question. Hi, Mr. Happy1227, my favorite Final Fantasy XIV YouTuber. Thank you. Question for Mondays with Mr. Happy 31. Have you ever used SweetFX or the latest Gem FX, and if so, what is your preset? I don't like modding things. I never liked it. I tried doing it when I played Skyrim. I had platinumed the game already, and I had all the achievements. And I was like, oh, let me check out some of the mods. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. I started adding them, and I was just like, this doesn't make me want to play this game anymore. I don't know. I don't like modding, even when it comes to like playing Final Fantasy VII on Steam, giving it like a graphical update. I don't care. I want to preserve the game the way it is and just play it the way it is, not try to change it to make it so that I'm not trying to change it to make me enjoy it better. It's a game that if I can't enjoy it the way it is, I just won't play it. I'm not going to try to find some sort of hot fix for it or anything like that. So no, I don't use any of those and probably never will. Alright, this video, I've had a lot of fun answering these questions. They've been great videos. It's almost dinner time for me now because I'm actually recording this the night before. It's something I started doing with Mondays with Mr. Happy. So I'm going to try and find a few questions here that are reposts. I haven't done that in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to try and answer a few more of those, and then we'll be done with the video. Hey, Mr. Happy1227, reposted from week number 27. I was wondering if you thought that they would ever do away with the two weapon types for White Mage and Black Mage. I really don't like the current ability to equip both one-handed and two-handed weapons for this class, since it makes certain weapons almost completely useless. It seems like all the endgame weapons are staves, and I'm okay with that, but it means I cannot use certain weapons like Mog and Final Fantasy XIII weapons for glamour. A second question, I guess, would be if you think that they will add in more weapons into the game for us to primarily use as stepping stones if we needed more variety, or more widely as only glamours. I would love to see more event weapons like what they did with Lightning Returns, along with just greater variety, since currently in More Donuts, I like the name, everyone has either a soldiery weapon or some stage of the Zodiac. Thank you for your time. So in the expansion, we are expecting a wider variety of gear choices at the very least. This is mostly because there's an item level gap between Alexander Normal and Hard Mode, and that is done on purpose so they can introduce content in between to help you gear up for Alexander Hard Mode. As for the one-handed versus two-handed, I completely agree. It was so stupid back in 2.0 when we got a Black Mage weapon drop for our, for our Black Mage from Twintania, and he couldn't use it because there was no good shield to really use it. I mean, it was still, it had more weapon damage, but it was just annoying, missing out on that extra intelligence because there was no good shields in the game. The only shield that came out was in 2.1, and then they never did that again. On top of the Moggle Mog weapon, not being able to use it for glamour, I think they should just do away with using those unless they plan to, as you said, add more weapon variety for both of those weapon choices. Alright, so I went to look for other questions that were from previous weeks, thinking there would be more of them, and there weren't. That was the only question that I could find, unless I'm missing something or it's not loading here in my comments section for any reason. So I'm going to answer this next question, and that is going to be my last question for this video. This person says I actually do have a question for next week, though it isn't related to 14. I know from watching your streams that you're somewhat hesitant to do stuff like giveaways. I was wondering what you might think of doing something like a playthrough of Final Fantasy IX or something, and naming the characters after subs, like what you did with your mods for Final Fantasy VII, but via roulette. That way, you wouldn't feel as though you were buying our support, and I think everyone would have a blast doing something like this, especially since I remember you saying you want to do other stuff for your subs. At least I think I remember you saying that, and you did indeed. Keep up the awesome work. Exclamation mark cake. That's a command in my Twitch chat. So yeah, the big thing I have with giveaways is, you know, you do the whole, oh, you have to be a follower, you don't have to, you can't do sub-only giveaways anymore, I'm pretty sure. It's just... yeah, it's like you said, I just feel like I'm buying viewership at that point, and I don't want that to be the case, you know. I want people to want to sub because they want to support the stream, because they appreciate the entertainment or the support. What you have said about the names, though, I actually did something sort of like that when I played Darkest Dungeon on stream, because you go through characters so fast in Darkest Dungeon, whether they die or, you know, you just have a bigger maximum roster or whatever. It was an easy game to do that in, and then it also gives the Twitch chat an attachment with their character, because if their character dies, you let them die, you let your sub die. So I want to do things like that. Yes, I do want to do more sub events. A lot of the times I just get like kind of wrapped up in doing my own thing, and I kind of forget. I always make sure to tell every sub or every viewer, thank you for coming, you know, hello, welcome, as long as they make their presence known to me. And I do always appreciate any of the subs or donations that come in during the streams or on my YouTube channel. And I like to, you know, thank those people. Like, you know, one thing I did for my subs during Christmas time is I actually put out a form that, if you filled it out, I made you a personalized Christmas card. I did it for, I think, over 100 people I ended up having to make Christmas cards for, but it ended up being worth it. A lot of people really liked it, and because I took the time to personalize most of them, as long as they were somebody that I had something personal to say about, I made sure to write something that was personable. It was very much appreciated, and it felt good to do it, which is why I really want to do more things. I just got to really figure out what those things are going to be. When I figure it out, though, I'll be sure to let you know. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. I'll be sure to see you next week, but remember, ask your questions in the comment section. I know there were a lot that I missed from this last week. So, thank you for watching. I'll see everyone next week, and until then, take care.